Back in 1995, GoldenEye was untouchable. Every character oozed style, danger, and power. But decades later, time has caught up with them. Some are gone and others have aged in ways you'd never expect. Something darker has happened behind the scenes, and there's no escaping it now. Let's uncover the truth. And trust me, you'll be stunned. Judi Dench as M. Cold. Smart. Fearless. That was M. He wasn't just Bond's boss. She was his conscience. Judi Dench gave the role a kind of sharp authority that no one had ever seen before. But away from the set, that strength was being tested in ways few people knew. Years of stage and screen work had taken a brutal toll. Performing in plays like Macbeth and Cabaret, Judi pushed her body past exhaustion. She suffered vocal strain and joint pain, but refused to step away. Even as her peers retired, she was still proving that age couldn't stop greatness. Then came the blow she couldn't rehearse for. Her eyesight began to disappear. Diagnosed with macular degeneration, she started losing her central vision. Reading became almost impossible. She learned to memorize scripts entirely by sound, leaning on co-stars to whisper her lines between takes. Still, she refused to quit. In 1999, her resilience paid off when she won an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love, followed by acclaimed performances in Philomena and Skyfall. Judi Dench was 61 when she filmed GoldenEye, 1995. In 2025, she's 91 years old, still working and living in Surrey, with an estimated net worth of $45 million. Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. When GoldenEye hit theaters in 1995, James Bond was back, smoother, sharper, and somehow more human. Pierce Brosnan didn't just play 007, he reinvented him. His Bond could charm a room, disarm a villain, and still look like he'd been through real pain. It made audiences fall in love with the franchise again. But behind that tuxedo and those one-liners was a story that didn't come easy. Pierce grew up in Ireland without a father, and for much of his childhood, without a mother either. He was raised in boarding houses and church orphanages, often feeling invisible. At 10, he moved to London, taking any job that would keep him afloat. Acting wasn't a dream yet. It was an escape. Then came Remington Steele, the 1980s TV hit that made him a star. The show opened Hollywood's doors, but fate slammed one shut. His wife, actress Cassandra Harris, was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She died in 1991, and Pierce was crushed. He stopped working for a while, raising their children alone, unsure if he even wanted to act again. Critics doubted him at first. Some said he was too soft or not British enough for Bond, but box office numbers told another story. From there came Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day, cementing Brosnan as the Bond of a new generation. Later, he traded guns for songs in Mamma Mia, proving he could still surprise everyone. Pierce Brosnan played James Bond when he was 42 years old. In 2025, he's 72, living peacefully in Malibu with his wife Keely and their children. His net worth is around $200 million, built from Bond paychecks, smart producing, and a lifetime of resilience behind that iconic smile. Desmond Llewelyn as QQ was the grumpy genius who made Bond look good. The man behind the exploding pens, laser watches, and eye rolls that made fans laugh every time. But for Desmond Llewelyn, life behind that laboratory door was filled with pain and quiet battles that never made it on screen. Before Hollywood, he was a soldier in World War II. In 1940, his unit was overrun by Nazi forces, and he was captured. He spent 5 years in prisoner of war camps, once attempting an escape through a tunnel, only to be caught and thrown into solitary confinement. When he was finally freed, he came home thin, limping, and haunted by memories he never spoke of. Returning to acting wasn't easy. He started from nothing, taking small stage parts, struggling financially, and often working second jobs just to support his family. Even after joining the Bond franchise, appearing in 17 films from Russia with Love to GoldenEye, he wasn't paid like a star. While the movies made millions, his own paycheck was modest. Still, he kept going. In 1998, he received the BFI Fellowship for his lifetime contribution to British film. In December 1999, after a fan event in East Sussex, his car collided head-on with another vehicle. He died instantly, just 3 weeks after The World Is Not Enough premiered, the film where Q finally hinted at his own retirement. Desmond Llewelyn was 81 when he filmed GoldenEye, 1995. He passed away in 1999 at the age of 85. His estimated net worth was $2 million, earned over a lifetime of hard work and quiet endurance. Famke Janssen as Xenia Onatopp. When GoldenEye exploded onto screens in 1995, Xenia Onatopp was impossible to ignore. Famke Janssen's mix of beauty and brutality redefined the Bond femme fatale. Stylish, fearless, and absolutely unhinged. That performance turned her into a star overnight. But the path to that breakout was paved with struggle. Before Hollywood came calling, Famke spent years trying to break free from modeling. Casting agents told her she was too exotic, and her thick Dutch accent nearly cost her several early auditions. She studied acting relentlessly, often sleeping just a few hours between classes and photo shoots. Her persistence paid off, but the work was punishing. During GoldenEye, she suffered a back injury performing stunts that would leave lasting pain for years. Even after the success of X-Men, she faced studio pushback for speaking up about fair pay and creative control. While other Bond stars faded, Famke carved a second career, writing, directing, and starring in acclaimed projects like The Blacklist, Redemption, and Hemlock Grove. Famke Janssen played Xenia Onatopp when she was 31 years old. In 2025, she's 61, living in New York and still balancing acting with advocacy work. Her net worth is around $20 million, earned through endurance, discipline, and sheer willpower. Joe Don Baker as Jack Wade. Remember that loud Hawaiian shirt and the easygoing Texan who somehow made James Bond laugh? Yeah, that was Jack Wade. He wasn't your typical secret agent, more like that one uncle who always shows up late but somehow saves the day anyway. Joe Don Baker gave Wade this mix of humor and heart that made him unforgettable. Before the fame, life hit Baker hard. Growing up in small-town Texas during the Great Depression, he watched his father lose everything in the oil business. He worked on farms, hauled lumber, and even served in the army before chasing his dream of acting. When he finally reached Hollywood, the roles didn't come easy. His southern accent got him mocked, and his size made directors hesitate. But he refused to quit. Then came Walking Tall in 1973, and everything changed. Playing a real-life sheriff who fought corruption with nothing but courage, Baker became a symbol of raw justice. The film made millions, and suddenly he was the face of tough guy cinema. But behind that fame were sleepless nights and a body still aching from a brutal car crash that left him with chronic pain. Action scenes hurt. Fame hurt worse. The 1980s brought more battles, a divorce, depression, and a dangerous slide into drinking. Still, he found his way back with strong performances in Cape Fear and Fletch, proving he was more than just muscle. By the time GoldenEye rolled around, Hollywood had finally learned what fans already knew. Joe Don wasn't just tough, he was real. Joe Don played Jack Wade when he was 59 years old. Sadly, Joe Don passed away in 2025 at 89 after a long, remarkable run. His net worth was around $2 million, not Bond money, but enough for a peaceful life back home in Texas. Robbie Coltrane as Valentin Zukovsky. Only Robbie Coltrane could make a Russian mob boss both terrifying and hilarious. As Valentin Zukovsky in GoldenEye, 1995, he was pure chaos. A gangster with a limp, a sharp tongue, and a weird sort of charm that made you like him even when you shouldn't. He wasn't just another Bond villain. He was the kind of character who stole every scene by simply existing. But behind that larger-than-life presence was a man fighting constant battles of his own. Robbie grew up in Scotland with a fractured family. His father, a doctor, left early, and money was always tight. He turned to comedy as a way out, hustling through dingy clubs, often performing drunk just to numb the nerves. By his 20s, the drinking wasn't an act anymore. It was survival. Several stints in rehab followed before fame ever arrived. When Cracker hit British television in the 1990s, everything changed. His performance as the troubled psychologist Fitz won him 3 straight BAFTA awards, and finally gave him the respect he'd chased for years. Then came GoldenEye, where his mix of dark humor and menace reached a global audience. And of course, Harry Potter turned him into a legend. As Hagrid, he went from cult actor to international treasure, bringing warmth to millions of childhoods. But fame didn't cure the pain. Robbie struggled with obesity and severe arthritis, often confined to a wheelchair in his final years. Losing close friends like comedian John Sessions deepened his isolation, and the pandemic years hit him especially hard. In one of his last interviews, he quietly admitted he was tired of life, a heartbreaking glimpse into the gentle giant behind the laughs. Robbie Coltrane played Valentin Zukovsky when he was 45 years old. Sadly, he passed away in 2022 at the age of 72 after years of battling heart problems and illness. His net worth was around $4 million, not bad for a man who once couldn't pay rent, and every penny came from a career that made people believe in magic again. Gottfried John as General Ourumov. Cold, sharp, and commanding. That's General Ourumov, the kind of villain who didn't need to shout to make everyone nervous. In GoldenEye, 1995, Gottfried John brought that quiet menace to life, making every stare feel like a threat. He was the perfect Soviet officer, disciplined on the outside, broken on the inside. But Gottfried's own story was much tougher than anything Bond ever faced. He grew up in post-war Berlin, surrounded by ruins, loss, and hunger. His father died when he was young, and his mother couldn't handle the chaos. By the time he was a teenager, he was living in shelters, learning early what survival meant. When acting finally found him, politics nearly destroyed him. He refused to work for East Germany's secret police, the Stasi, a brave choice that got him blacklisted. With nothing but a suitcase, he fled to West Germany in the early 1980s, where he started from scratch. There, he met filmmaker Rainer Werner Fassbinder and joined a creative circle that changed his life. Together, they made Berlin Alexanderplatz and The Marriage of Maria Braun, turning him into one of Europe's most respected actors. Hollywood noticed, and GoldenEye made him international. Then came Asterix and Obelix vs. Caesar in 1999, where he surprised everyone by being funny, and won a major film award for it. But behind the success, years of heavy smoking and stress caught up with him. In his final years, he battled stomach cancer quietly, refusing surgery because he didn't want to lose his voice. Gottfried John played General Ourumov when he was 53 years old. Sadly, he passed away in 2014 at 72 after a long fight with cancer. His net worth was around $1 million, not the fortune of a movie villain, but enough for a peaceful life in Munich with his wife, far away from the spotlight he never really chased. Michael Kitchen as Bill Tanner. Not every Bond ally wears a tuxedo or carries a gun. Some fight with intelligence, loyalty, and a calm voice, like Bill Tanner, MI6's chief of staff. Michael Kitchen played him with quiet authority in GoldenEye, 1995, making bureaucracy look almost heroic. His Tanner wasn't flashy, but you always trusted him. And that subtle strength defined his style. Michael's path to that desk at MI6 was anything but smooth. Born in Leicester, England, he grew up working class, the son of a miner. Money was always short, and he left school early to help at home. For years, he worked factory jobs, dreaming of something more. When he finally studied acting, he was nearly 30. surrounded by younger classmates and endless self-doubt. He fought his way through small TV parts and stage plays before landing a breakthrough with Out of Africa in 1985, which earned him a BAFTA. Even so, Hollywood fame never tempted him. He preferred the stage lights of London, where he could control his art and stay out of the gossip columns. That independence came at a price: long gaps between jobs and the loneliness of being too private for fame. In the 1990s, just as he was questioning his career, Bond came calling. GoldenEye gave him global exposure, and a few years later, Foyle's War made him a national treasure. For more than a decade, he played the sharp, principled detective who fought crime with intelligence, not violence. Michael Kitchen played Bill Tanner when he was 47 years old. As of 2025, he's 77, still living privately in London with his wife Rowena and their 2 children. His net worth is around $6 million. Not bad for someone who never cared about fame, only the craft. Tchéky Karyo as Dmitri Mishkin. Not every Bond character needs explosions to make an impression. Dmitri Mishkin, the sharp-eyed Russian minister in GoldenEye, had something more powerful: quiet intelligence and calm authority. Tchéky Karyo gave him that, turning a supporting role into one fans still remember. Tchéky's life, though, was anything but calm. Born to Turkish-Jewish parents in Istanbul, he grew up between cultures and countries, always feeling like an outsider. When his family moved to France, they had almost nothing. He spent nights sleeping on benches, working odd jobs, and cleaning offices before he could even afford acting school. It's why his characters always seemed to carry secrets. In the 1980s and 90s, he became one of France's most respected actors, shining in La Femme Nikita and The Patriot. Hollywood soon followed, and GoldenEye gave him an international platform. He also was a musician. His 2015 jazz folk album surprised fans with its warmth and depth, revealing a side of him far from the cold characters he often played. Tchéky Karyo played Dmitri Mishkin when he was 42 years old. In 2025, he's 72, still based in Paris, balancing acting with music. His net worth is around $4 million. Not vast, but enough for a man who built everything from nothing and turned every scar into art. Sean Bean as Alec Trevelyan. Every Bond fan remembers that moment, the shocking betrayal when Alec Trevelyan turns against 007. Sean Bean made that twist unforgettable. He gave Bond his first villain who felt like family. But Sean's climb to fame was full of grit. Before Hollywood knew his name, he was hustling through tiny theater roles, struggling to prove himself after leaving a welding job in Sheffield. At RADA, he was told he lacked polish, and for years after graduating, he bounced between low-budget stage plays and unpaid parts. He had to fight for every screen test, often losing out to prettier or posher actors. When Sharp came along in the early 90s, it changed everything, but at a price. The filming was brutal: long hours, extreme weather, and dangerous stunts that left him with permanent scars. Even, he broke his leg and finished the scene before getting medical help. Critics called his work too intense, but that intensity became his trademark. Sean Bean played Alec Trevelyan when he was 36 years old. In 2025, he's 66, living in Yorkshire and still working steadily. His net worth is around $20 million, built not from comfort, but from a lifetime of giving everything to the craft. Alan Cumming as Boris Grishenko. Few characters in GoldenEye, 1995, were as instantly iconic as Boris Grishenko, the eccentric, overconfident hacker who couldn't stop saying, "I am invincible." Alan Cumming turned what could have been a throwaway sidekick into one of the film's most memorable personalities. But Cumming's path to success was anything but invincible. Coming from a working-class family in Scotland, he faced a harsh and abusive upbringing that nearly made him quit acting before it began. When he finally made it to drama school, he was told his look was too odd and his voice too sharp for leading roles. For years, he survived on tiny stage jobs, trying to convince directors he could be funny and dangerous at once. The stage eventually became his salvation. His fearless performance in Cabaret in London earned him an Olivier Award nomination, and when he brought that same role to Broadway, he won the Tony. Still, the pressure of constant reinvention took a toll. Cumming has spoken openly about his past struggles with addiction and burnout during the height of his fame. Each comeback, though, was bolder than the last. On screen, he became one of Hollywood's most unpredictable talents. From Circle of Friends and Spy Kids to X2, where his transformation into Nightcrawler became an instant fan favorite. His role in The Good Wife later won him multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations, solidifying him as one of TV's most respected chameleons. Alan Cumming played Boris Grishenko when he was 30 years old. In 2025, he's 60, living in New York and still active on Broadway and television. His net worth is around $5 million, earned the hard way, one reinvention at a time. Izabella Scorupco as Natalya Simonova. Bond may have had gadgets and guns, but GoldenEye gave him something new. Natalya Simonova, the quiet, brilliant computer programmer who stole the spotlight. Izabella Scorupco played her with intelligence and warmth, balancing strength and vulnerability in a way that changed what a Bond girl could be. Isabella's career began in the chaos of reinvention. After emigrating from Poland to Sweden as a child, she struggled to adapt to a new language and culture. Modeling gave her a start, but it wasn't the kind of artistry she wanted. When she shifted into acting, she faced rejection after rejection. Casting directors doubted her accent and her seriousness. It took years before she was trusted with real dramatic material. Her big break came with GoldenEye, but it came with pressure too. Overnight fame made her a global face, yet the offers that followed were limited. Hollywood tried to typecast her as the beautiful foreigner, while European studios doubted her star power. Still, she kept evolving. In recent years, she shifted toward music again, releasing the album Zazazu in 2020 and quietly working behind the scenes as a producer. Her career may not have stayed on Bond's scale, but it never stopped moving. Izabella Scorupco played Natalya Simonova when she was 25 years old. In 2025, she's 55, living in Stockholm and focused on music and selective film work. Her net worth is around $4 million, a modest but proud reward for decades of resilience and reinvention. Samantha Bond as Miss Moneypenny. Every Bond needs a Moneypenny. The calm in the chaos, the wit behind the briefings in GoldenEye. 1995. Samantha Bond stepped into that legendary role with sharp humor and quiet confidence, instantly redefining the character for a modern audience. She wasn't just flirting with 007, she was keeping up with him. But the glamour of the Bond world was miles away from the pressure she faced behind the curtain. Coming from a family of actors, Samantha grew up under the weight of expectation. The theater was her first home, but it was also unforgiving. For years, she juggled stage work and small TV parts, building a reputation the hard way. By the late 90s, she was finally a household name. Then came the setback. During a 2000 stage production, a severe shoulder injury forced her to withdraw from a national theater tour. The pain lingered for years, costing her multiple stage roles. Instead of quitting, she turned her focus to television. Her persistence paid off. Samantha earned acclaim for her work with the Royal Shakespeare Company, later winning an Olivier Award and finding global recognition as Lady Rosamond in Downton Abbey. Samantha Bond played Miss Moneypenny when she was 34 years old. In 2025, she's 64, still based in London and active in theater and television. Her net worth is around $5 million, the quiet reward of a lifetime spent mastering her craft. Serena Gordon as Caroline. She was only on screen for a few minutes in GoldenEye, 1995, but Caroline, the MI6 psychologist who evaluates Bond, gave audiences a rare glimpse of 007's playful side. Serena Gordon played her with natural warmth and poise. Serena's career journey was far from smooth. After graduating from RADA, she entered a world overflowing with talent and short on opportunities. Casting directors often labeled her too proper for edgy roles and too young for serious ones. For most of the 1990s, she bounced between auditions, waiting for a break that came too slowly. Even after her Bond appearance, the climb stayed steep. Theater productions paid little, and television work was sporadic. She faced exhaustion and creative frustration. Yet she kept going, channeling that discipline into steady performances in British staples like The Bill, where she finally earned critical notice. Serena Gordon played Caroline when she was 32 years old. In 2025, she's 62, living privately in England and occasionally writing for television. Her net worth is around $1 million, modest, but built on decades of steady work and quiet determination. Simon Kunz as Severnaya duty officer. You probably don't remember his name right away, but you remember his face. In GoldenEye, 1995, Simon Kunz played the Severnaya duty officer, the calm professional whose quiet presence grounded the chaos of the satellite base. It was a small role, but the kind that leaves a mark, because Kunz gave it real weight. His path to that point was full of quiet grind. After studying theater at the University of Warwick, Simon worked backstage, taught workshops, and auditioned anywhere that would see him. He was often told he was too subtle for film and too expressive for television. For most of the 1980s, he survived on temp jobs while waiting for his break. GoldenEye opened a door, but not a wide one. He quickly became typecast. Even so, he built an impressive resume. Victory, 1995, The Parent Trap, 1998, and later the historical epic, The Last Kingdom. The toughest years came recently. During the COVID-19 shutdowns, Kunz lost several stage contracts, including a planned West End revival that would have been his first major lead in years. Instead of quitting, he pivoted to television, joining acclaimed shows like The Crown and slowly rebuilding momentum. Simon Kunz played the Severnaya duty officer when he was 33 years old. In 2025, he's 63, still based in London and active on stage and screen. His net worth is around $500,000. Modest, but the reflection of a career built entirely on perseverance and quiet skill. Time changes everyone, even Bond's world. Which GoldenEye star surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking Hollywood transformations.